Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues as well. Today we're going to talk about LCA Tejas Mark-2. Now the central government has given its nod to the development of the next generation variant and a more potent version of the indigenous light combat aircraft LCA Tejas. The Tejas Mark-2 is being described as a 4.5 generation machine that will not only have approximately 70% indigenization, but will also incorporate more advanced technologies to be built in India only. LCA Tejas is a single engine and highly agile, a multi-role supersonic fighter jet manufactured by the state-run Hindustan Aeronautics Ltd, HAL. It made its first flight in 2001 and was inducted into the Indian Air Force in 2016. In February 2021, the Defence Ministry signed a 48,000 crore rupees deal with the HAL to supply 83 LCA Tejas Mark-1A to the Indian Air Force. Now, the clearance for the Tejas Mark-2 comes as a huge boost for the Indian Air Force, which is currently at 30 fighter squadrons against the sanctioned strength of 42. So understand the significance of this approval and what Tejas Mark-2 is likely to bring to the table. We're joined by a distinguished panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Mayank Singh, who is here with us in the studio. He's defense correspondent with the New Indian Express. Mayank, welcome to the studios. We're also joined by two more gentlemen. Mr. T. Suvarna Raju, he is the former CMD of HAL, and retired Air Vice Marshal Manmohan Bahadur, strategic analyst, is also with us. Welcome, both of you gentlemen as well. Mr. Raju, I'll begin with you. If you could give us a bit of a lowdown on the journey of LCA Tejas, starting from the initial stages, and also what is it that Tejas Mark-2 brings to the table?
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. LCA Tejas, today we are among the few nations we have such capability. Initially, we never had a kind of fighter platforms. Most of them are made by under license or a transfer of technology. But this journey of light combat aircraft has started way back in 1978, and many years have passed. And of course, the program was funded by government in phases. First phase, you make a technology demonstrator. Then once we are successful in making a technology demonstrator, then we went on to a full-scale engineering development phase 1. And then that's somewhere in 2001. And then we went in for full-scale engineering development number 2. So that's how the journey of LCA. Of course, there were a lot of issues which came on, and then we were under the expected technologies were not flowing to us. And in such an environment, the Indian scientists and engineers have made this fighter aeroplane take to the skies. And today, it's the pride of the government. Okay. While, yes, people may comment that it took so much of a time, but from nowhere, today where we are is a tremendous and fantastic journey. Okay. And fortunately, the fact is that the LCA squadron is in its operation, and then it's bringing in a lot of laurels to our technologists, pilots, and services. It's from there, maybe we took a bit of time on knowing, making, flying it safe on LCA Tejas, but from there, we could move very fast on this LCA Tejas Mark-2. Whatever the learnings of Mark-1, where there could be some maintenance issues, the system issues, and whatever issues which are found in the LCA Mark-1, 1 and 1A could be redesigned to achieve state-of-the-art 4.5 generation aircraft, that's LCA Tejas 2, with the people right now. It's not only between HAL, ADA, NAL. The major components of these aircrafts are being made by the private industry today, like L&Ts. There are 4 companies which are making the major components of it. So at any given point of time, we could ramp up the production and make our Tejas available to our services on a very cost-effective and efficient manner in this environment.
Okay. Let me bring in AVM Bahadur here as well. AVM Bahadur, from Mark-1 to Mark-1A to now Mark-2, Of course, as Mr. Raju was pointing out, it has been a time-taking journey, but it has delivered results as well. Now, in terms of capabilities, when we have to compare, and from an end user's perspective also, how do you see these developments from Mark 1 to 1A to Mark 2 now being cleared?
As they say in Hindi, der aaye durust aaye. It is good that the 1A is coming up. Incidentally, the Mark 1A as a system by itself is yet to fly. As per the media reports, the Mark 1A is a production model of Mark 1, which is being flown from April. That's what the media says. But as a whole, the Mark 1A is yet to fly. That's one. Why I am putting these riders is that because from the user's point of view, the Indian Air Force is looking at a capability in a timely fashion. The time factor is vital. So because the adversary does not wait for Indian technology to catch up, we have to keep pace. So Mark 2, which is going to come up, is still some distance away. It's, to my understanding, it's on the drawing board, maybe beyond the drawing board slightly. But if the media is to be believed that the first aircraft will roll out the prototype in 2024 and 2027 flight testing will be over, and that's what the statements are coming out. Within 3 years, flight testing is over. I'm sorry, but I will add caution here. 3 years flight testing and get into production is a dream. If it happens, it's possibly something that will never have happened in the world.
Okay.
I hope it happens in a fast manner. Now, coming to the capabilities that the Mark II will bring in, is good because it will have a more powerful engine, the GE414, an ISA radar, hopefully an indigenous ISA radar, because right now it's an Israeli ISA radar. And then the problems of maintenance, which Mr. Raju mentioned, they are not a few. We've faced many problems because that affects the turnaround time and the availability of aircraft on the flight. As Mr. Raju says, HAL and ADA, they have learned from the experience of Mark 1. And hopefully we should not be having these problems in the Mark 2.
Okay.
The Mark 2 gives you more range, more capability, almost double the payload. It's from 3.5 to almost 7 tons of armament it can carry. And as far as the flight control system is something that we can be proud of because it's absolutely indigenous flight control system. And that is the good part. And that is a learning process which ADA and HAL have really caught on. And I'm sure Mark II will not have any issues with the flight control system. But there are other issues that I brought up vis-a-vis the time and the product support.
Okay. Okay.
It's so good to hear that Malaysia is interested. Recently, there was a report Argentina is interested. I hope we have learned from our ALH experience of Ecuador, where we sold aircraft to Ecuador, but we couldn't keep up with these products.
Indeed.
So while the Indian Air Force still waits for 83 Tejas Mark-1A, okay, we need to be a little careful that when we sell them abroad, our reputation, our credibility does not come.
Okay, indeed, that is also a very important aspect there. But those points which AVM Bahadur pointed out, let me bring them to you, Mayank, both in terms of timelines and in terms of capabilities. When we look at the end user requirements, how do you see the need and requirements are met? And we're talking about Indian Air Force, the constant need, and we have had numerous discussions on how there is an urgent need to add more aircraft to replace the aging ones as well.
In case of aviation, there are certain meticulous things which cannot be done away with, and the systems like these, which are complex, which require sophistication. So, as a service, Air Force has been working out on security parameters, on testing parameters, validations and all. And it has to be done in such a way because it is a matter of so many things, life, national security and all. It's the best part right now is the push which has come from the government side. And that push is actually, when you talk of make procedures, make in India, made in India, other things. Let me take the entire discussion to a different level actually, or to a different side, wherein let's say we have already started producing a system which is flying, and any military industrial complex of the world, it is said that the engine, it is the pinnacle by which a military industrial complex is tested. You talk of any permanent 5 country, or which is the most developed nation in terms of military production, military equipment production.
Military know-how,
All
technology.
5, they have, the engines are the most important thing. Certain developments which are very positive and which needs to be discussed, but also these are areas which have always troubled you, which is engine side, the metallurgy side. And engine is something like, let's say in December, when Florence Parly, Miss Florence Parly, Defense Minister of France, when she came to India, she was participating in a program of FICCI. And in that program, the Defense Minister, our Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, had announced that there are certain works being done by which both the countries might come out with their own engines, which will be a joint venture. The good thing is that in July, now there has been an agreement which has been made between the 2 countries, signed, which is to produce the engines for the helicopters, this thing. Engine has been the sorest part of India's defense production. Any kind of engine, which is like Army, Navy, Air Force, which you go to any equipment and such sophisticated systems, that also derives from a different production, which is metallurgy. You know, the engines wherein the temperature rises up to 1500, 1400 degrees centigrade, the kind of metallurgy which require has to be such that which can bear such temperature. So what you are saying is actually, so we are rising step by step. We need to give time to ourselves, and in that term, like as AVM Bahadur was saying, that yes, the kind of interest which we have started receiving both for the helicopters as well as for the aircrafts is actually showing that yes, things might turn up well. Time has to be something which has to be arranged up. If the things have to be, the past is something which reflects the lessons, then we have to go a long way further.
And then we have to speed up the process as well, which I'm sure everybody involved would be working on. But Mr. Raju, you know, these 2 parts, as Mayank was referring to, engine development of engine technology and metallurgy as well. Where do we stand?
Yeah, very rightly, Mayank has raised the issue of engine and metallurgy. Of course, engine is an issue for us for quite some time. While we made about 15 types of engines under transfer of technology, we have only one jet engine, which is 374 kgs thrust, which is used on a UAV. We have to catch up a lot on this, but then there are a lot of effort which has been put by HAL also. They were trying to develop a 25 kilonewton engine, which would be fitting on a executive jet or a trainer aircraft. I think that is in the last phases of it. And also a 1200 kilowatt engine, because all our helicopter engines are imported, when primarily from a company. And if there were to be any issue, I think almost all helicopters would have a problem on maintainability or serviceability. Yes, there is an issue, but there are ways and means of doing onto it. Yes, Kaveri, to whatever extent we have gone, maybe somebody should look at it for a 95 or a 80 or 90 kilonewton ton engine. In any way, we are looking at AMCA, our own, a next version or a next product from LCA Mark-2. Yes, this is a field which we need to concentrate and have a self-reliance on the engine production, manufacture, and design. And of course, on the metallurgy side, yes, we have the scientists. Given a virgin material, I think our scientists can make any alloy. But the question is, there are certain issues where we don't have availability of the virgin material, including right to say on the titanium itself to start with. So there are very many efforts and reports which are created at the Department of Defense Production and Ministry of Defense. We are looking at it, and I think it may take some time, but I think we will be there. And coming to the other technologies like the airframe and avionics integration, I think we've reached the top. So we have no gap on it, except for the materials and the engine. Yes, it's a process. We have to learn. We have to arrange for, if possible, some technology transfers with rights of the design. It's
Okay.
not just TOT manufacturing. We need to have a right to modify, change. I mean, we need to get a design rights. Yes. I mean,
Okay.
we should look at it. These two issues are very critical. And then there are ways and means we need to find out to get our goal of making Mark-2
Okay.
or AMCA soon and be truly Atmanirbhar.
Okay, indeed, those two aspects are very crucial and important. AVM Bahadur, when we look at it from the Indian Air Force's perspective, ultimately what matters is the end product which has been given to the end user. And the end user here being Indian Air Force, numbers of fighter aircraft is equally important to the capability of that platform as well. So the kind of platforms which we have with the Indian Air Force right now, the kind of numbers which we have, the kind of numbers which are required, there is a gap, of course, and that gap has been talked about quite a lot. With these new developments, Mark-1A, 83 aircrafts, deal already been signed, Rafale fighter jets are also, flying in. And how do you see this gap being filled in the times to come? And what more needs to be done there?
There is no escape from the fact that that 114 fighter project has to go through. That has been stated by the Air Force in as many words, because Mark-1A is still far away, Mark-2 is further away, and AMCA is even further away. Meanwhile, our Jaguar fleet, our MiG-29 fleet, the Mirage fleet, the old aircraft, they will start getting phased out. So in this whole business of numbers and number of fighter squadrons, that 114, which is a huge number, has to be important. Let there be no doubts about it.
Mm-hmm.
The Tejas Mark-1A or the Tejas Mark-2 cannot fill this gap. So when we talk Atmanirbhar, as a professional, I need to be clear that the fact remains that when we talk Atmanirbharta in defense manufacturing, everything cannot be made within the country. There are only 4 engine manufacturers in the world. The Brits, the Rolls-Royce, the Russians, the French, and the Americans. So just remember, the numbers that we require are few, very few, which does not prohibit us from getting the technology and somewhere down the line, a few decades later, getting into that stream and start exporting. Then only the amount of money, time, effort put in is relevant. So when we're talking of Atmanirbharta, there cannot be any aircraft which is 100% within the country.
Mm-hmm.
The C-17, for example, is integrated by Boeing. And similarly, the C-130. The C-130s from America that we've got, the engines are British. They are Rolls-Royce.
But with every
So,
step,
let's be
AVM
practical
Bahadur,
about
we are moving closer to the indigenization, Atmanirbharta. We are integrating more indigenized parts and aspects of the platforms which we make. So we're trying to get there. What perhaps you're pointing out is that of course it's not possible in a given time frame, maybe within a year or 5 years if required.
Prioritize in a phased manner. What is it that is practical, and how much of indigenization or localization can be done within the country? As Mr. Raju says, we have got to get the rights to go, and to think that the French or the British or the American or the Russians will give us niche engine technology, I think that's a dream. We should be very realistic about it. They will not give it to us. So our R&D has to measure up to the requirement, and somewhere down the line, in a phased manner, achieve those high-end technologies.
Okay. Mayank, when we're talking about indigenization in defense manufacturing, it's just not about Indian Air Force. We've seen about Indian Navy as well, and vis-a-vis the needs of the Indian Army also. So there's a lot which is happening. But as AVM Bahadur was referring to it, how do you see the needs and requirements of the end user, the defense forces, being met in a particular time frame, yes, which is very crucial and very important for the defense forces also, and also ensuring that we do move on this steadfastly on this path towards self-reliance, making more strides towards indigenization. How do we do that?
Let me explain it in a different format or in a manner. if armed forces are a crisis management machinery, so they have to any vehicle or a system which can go faster, which can carry more load, and which can react faster is what is the requirement. And this cat and mouse game continues. So let's say somebody is creating a new radar which can see farther, which can peep into the enemy side and can react fast. That's one way. So what all are we doing? For all these to come together, there has to be an ecosystem. The Western countries which have come up with all these kind of technologies, they had taken the start fast and first. And I agree with AVM Bahadur that you need not invent or reinvent the wheel every time. There has to be a smart mix of things. Because see, the production in other countries is also happening for sale. And if they are going to sell to us, we have to also understand that not every niche technology is going to be given to us. So there has to be a balance of everything. But let's say if enemy is changing fast, threat perceptions are shifting into the favor of the enemy, then you have to work out things which are in your favor. So you have to have sophisticated machines, scientists, DRDO, private, government has adopted a new means by which it is coming out with lists, and which is also giving a timeline by which those systems, equipments, armaments will not be taken from outside.
Okay.
That is a way to actually to tell your indigenous companies to come up and start producing those things within the country. Maybe we are also coming to having a thinking that gradually these might turn up. Well, because Mahindra systems, or let's say Tata, let's say Larsen and Toubro, there are lots of companies which have started doing well. Into Kalyani is there. So we have started producing well. One thing we have to understand that Navy took a lead into it by coming up with an organization which is called Department of Naval Design, which was established in 1965. They have done quite well. Metallurgy, the current INS Vikrant, which has been commissioned, 30,000 ton of steel, which is military grade steel, which has been produced within your country. Things are changing fast. But as AVM Bahadur pointed out, it has to be done in such a way that you catch up with the enemy in a way that you are not left behind. Because military is a game of threat perceptions, and you have to manage threat. And military uses whatever you give. Government has to decide how R&D, what all amount is given for R&D, how fast it has to be given. There are lots of incubation centers which have been formed into IITs. There are joint ventures which are happening. Lots of armed forces officers, they have been embedded. They have been co-opted within the PSUs as well as within the indigenous companies, which is private companies. Things might turn up bright.
Okay.
Aviation world, which is TEDBF, twin-engine deck-based fighter aircraft, which is also to be produced in India. We are aspiring for it. As AVM Bahadur pointed out, AMCA has to be produced in India. And it's a right time, actually. There's a lot of push from the government side.
Okay.
Money has to come up. But we have to do a balanced bidding for what we have to produce and what we have to take in.
Okay. So a balanced approach is required in terms of what needs to be built here, what is it that we require immediately and can be brought from outside as well. But focus always being on being self-reliant. So we've started on to the process there. Thank you so much, Mayank there, AVM Bahadur also, and Mr. T.S. Raju for sharing your views and insights. As our experts were pointing out, clearly the clearance for Tejas Mark-2 is a very significant, important event when we're talking about the needs for Indian Air Force and the requirement of new aircrafts there, but also the focus on indigenization, or focus on becoming self-reliant, and there will have to be a balanced approach as far as this sector is concerned. We'll come back again on Monday with a different topic. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.